Standard deviation.
And we're back. We're back, Simo. How are you doing today?
It's been a while. I think we're both a bit under the weather. I'm on the tail end of a flu, and you are as well. I think.
Yeah, I'm nasally like Fran Drescher from The Nanny. Like, eh. That's how I was. Or like Janice from Friends. Janice. Oh my God.
It is what it is. Like
Yeah.
it's like, at least in Finland, like it's been wet and cold, so it's like optimal season for.
Just,
And then
just,
and then
just
there's this.
terrible.
I think I've mentioned this before, but we have this thing where when our kids go to daycare, they come home with a new disease. So now
Yes.
there's this epidemic or at least the media is trying to turn it into an epidemic. But there's this. I have to Google the name. It's like this tick that causes this rash all around your body, and you have to like burn
Oh,
all your furniture and clothes to get rid of it. It's what is it called?
bed bugs?
No, it's scabies. Scabies mite.
Oh, we say that's scabia. Yes, so I know
Yeah,
that
it's
it's a
horrible.
similar. Fuck, you guys
Yeah,
got
it's worse
that in
than
Finland?
lice. It's worse than lice because with lice, at least it's in your hair, and you have like a you can zero in on it. Well, I can't, but people who have hair can. This can be all over your body. It's like it's terrible. And
But how the fuck do they
it's not a
survive in Finland though? Because it's cold as shit.
hey, life finds a way, as Jurassic
True.
Park always taught us. So yeah,
Wow.
it's so that's our life now. It's people are just getting sick again, which is kind of sucks, especially when it's your family members. But you know,
Yep. I hope you steer free from scabies because
oh yeah, and
that sounds terrible.
that's a good life goal to stay away from scabies. There's no justification in the evolutionary chain for why they exist except to cause harm and
Yes.
annoyance. So
Oh,
yeah,
damn.
yeah.
That's bad. That's bad. Yeah, same here with cold. And officially from today, I'm wearing glasses. Today, the day that we are recording this, because I realized I don't see with my left eye, which caused me a lot of headaches. So I went to the doctor, and I have like one -1 on this one. Like,
Okay.
whoa. I was like, that's pretty terrible because I cannot see into the distance, and I noticed it when I was in London last week. So now these are my glasses. So it's weird because I'm not used to glasses.
No,
But I
they look
think,
good.
oh, thank you. My husband said that I'm starting to get old, so like shit starts to get bad, and I was like,
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
That's super, supportive. But
He's
yeah,
right.
but yeah,
It's yeah.
it's good that we separate this. So people that listen to this podcast, see, that's why we're not in your face every week. Oh my god, look at us with this new episode because we like to leave space to actually have
Yeah.
stuff to talk about and not to
Yes.
circle jerk each other, with pleasantries, right? So, Simon, today is a big day. So I don't know when this is gonna be live, but for the people, for the purpose of this episode, is the 6th of March. So, Simon, what's going on today?
Yeah. So today is the constant mode apocalypse. Constant mode apocalypse. Constant mode apocalypse. Whatever you want to call it. Pick one. Constant mode
Apocalypse.
Armageddon.
Oh
Um,
my
yeah.
god.
So it's when the DMA requirements, the Digital Market Act's requirements, have come into effect. And with gatekeepers like Google, they now need to start collecting all that juicy information on whether the users have consented to use their services or not. So you can imagine how all the forums, all the Slack channels, everything is flooded with people trying to figure out if they've done things right because apparently Google hasn't done such a good job at educating and documenting constant mode as they could have done. So we have a lot of people in a quandary right now, trying to figure out if their services still work.
Oh
Um,
no.
so it's a I sympathize with many different factions here. Like I sympathize with Google because they're not the consent managers. They just collect existing states. So
Mm.
if the client's website, customer's website doesn't have a consent management platform running, then it's there's nothing Google can do about that. If for them to be compliant, they need to rely on existing signals. I sympathize with websites that set up their consent management platforms because not all of those have an integration with consent mode, so they need to retag everything. And even those that have the integration, it's some of them are still based on an earlier version which
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
have all
yeah.
the updated signals. So it's just super messy, and it kind of is just an annual reminder, or a monthly, no, a weekly, no, a daily reminder
Daily.
that is all of this um, privacy and technology interfacing. Is it actually all worth the trouble? Because we're in a place where businesses are suffering because of this kind of stuff, um, and and it hurts the small ones as well because they don't have the resources to look into this, and it hurts
And
the
the
big ones
education
because
is
they have.
missing.
Yeah, exactly. um, and for once it's very, very difficult for the community to pick up the slack because we can only do so much. We can't tell how to implement your content strategy because that's a legal determination. You have to go back to your legal team to do
Yep.
that. So it's been a frustrating time. I don't have any skin in the game, but as you know, I'm very active in those forums. So I see people struggling with this, and of course, I want to help as much as I can. So it's kind of a time hog for me as well, trying to figure out like how these different signals come together. But yeah,
It's the DMA is making quite a mess.
yeah,
Not only with consent, but also with mobile apps. And I was mentioning to you earlier is that first Apple announced that, hey, we're gonna remove support for progressive web apps for PWA. You're not gonna be able to save them on the home screen. So obviously, so many people got scared because a lot of people
mm,
have PWAs. And interestingly, actually, I was reading on Twitter that Apple has the lowest adoption in Europe when it comes to apps, and their lowest revenue comes from Europe
mm.
to Apple.
Yeah,
So
they have
for
like
them,
really low.
super low. Like, was it like 8% or something like that?
Yeah.
I saw somebody tweeting about this, and of course, for all of the PWAs for iOS are working on Safari's WebKit, so everything
Mm,
needs to be developed like that. So for Apple to be compliant with the DMA and everything that Europe asks from them, it means that they have to open and build for other types of browsers, and it's hard. Like they're not ready to do something like that. And is it even worth it? Back to your question earlier. So then they retracted in appearance, but basically they only said that, hey, you can still save your PWA on the home screen as long as you built it for WebKit Safari. So
mm,
it's not a retraction per se, it's just a change of language. But again, the biggest thing here is education, because
mm.
it's crazy. And I remember I was telling you this whole thing with DMA and privacy sandbox it's a mess. Like I don't understand anything anymore. So because we have a lot of people that are just starting out, like could you give me like the gist of DMA? Like what does DMA changes for how we do marketing as we know it?
Well, it's not it doesn't like it's not our problem per se. It's like DMA lists a number of gatekeepers who are
Yeah,
companies that are big enough to have to get their shit together. That's basically what DMA does. And then there's the Digital Services Act also that adds additional requirements for these companies, like being able
yeah,
they have to open their technologies, they have to open their app stores, and this is like the PWA mess comes from the fact that Apple needs to allow other browser engines on their devices, and they want to make sure that things like PWAs, which do have security concerns,
they
are
do.
only running on verified and validated technology, which for Apple would be WebKit. Like if you build it on Blink or Gecko or something else, it's not like Apple can allow that to happen in their closed ecosystem of an operating. That's like the long and short of it.
Yeah,
How much of that is just blowing smoke? It who knows. Only Apple knows like what their actual engineering roadmap is. Um, but yeah, so DMA places these requirements on these gatekeepers, and in our marketing world, like one way that we see it is that we need to forward this consent signal so that these services can then use that consent signal for their so-called core platform services like CPS, which for Google would be like search, YouTube, Play Store. There's six of them. I can't remember all of them at this point anymore. So that's what it is, and it's delegated. It's offloaded to customers in the way that they do need to understand how these things are going to work in the future. They need to know what to invest in. They need to know what kind of technology determinations to make.
mm,
I think the problem comes, which DMA and DSA didn't really impact at all. The problem is still the same, that we don't know what happens downstream. When we send constant signals to Google, when we use consent mode, when we have our CMPs, we have no idea how much that actually impacts the quality of our data, because all the case studies that have come out prior to this date have been engineered by the vendors themselves. So they say that, hey, if you send us these pings, we'll be able to do this modeling that gives you this much data back. But that's just, they can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
What I'm looking for is same as with Privacy Sandbox. We have no idea how that's going to impact the ad tech scheme until we have a number of neutral, reliable case studies with a lot of data comparing before and after, or without signals and with signals, so that we know, because we need that information. Like, I'm not going to make, like, consent mode, for example. I'm not going to start sending pings from users who didn't consent unless there's a really, 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 really good business justification that
Yeah.
overrules all the privacy and security concerns. So it's like a risk assessment exercise. And currently, I have no idea what the business benefit is. Same as with Privacy Sandbox, I have no idea what will factually happen concretely to my advertising setups, to my display advertising budgets, to my CPAs, because there's just not enough data yet. And I can't take Google's word for granted that they're going to say, hey, it's going to be fine. I have no idea if this is going to be fine.
Yeah.
I need that data. So there are people, there are people who are doing these studies right now, and they're doing a great job at it. But we still need so much more, and we need for that to be like a significant factor.
And
Technology itself has become a party in the conversation, and that's a problem. Like, it's complicated enough to have its own voice at this point, and it's
mm,
getting very, very difficult to really figure out, like, where, like, the very concrete things. What do I need to invest in the next quarter? Like, what kind of privacy concerns are there? What kind of teams do I have to build? What kind of people do I have to hire? Like, how do we go to that? No idea, because we have no idea what happens downstream.
yeah, and the strategy remains being, scare. Like people just it just produces a lot of fear. It
Yeah.
produces a lot of uncertainty. So people are constantly wondering, like, is this really worth it? Like, do we really? How did we function until this point without
Mm.
all of this going on? And it's not only ads; it's also like first party data. Because I was talking to Aurelie about the privacy sandbox and consent mode for apps. Because like I have to go to her because she's like the encyclopedia of stuff, and for some reason she tolerates my trillion questions. So I love I don't I nobody I think fully understands what the privacy sandbox is, but I told you, she says she's like how we depicted COVID, a big ball with spikes. And
Yeah.
I do think that apps are flying under the radar because this also affects first party data. And I just started seeing from today a consent banners in apps.
Mm.
I use a lot of apps. I don't want to comment on the work and stuff, but I don't see, this is the first day I do see consent banners in apps. I never did them.
Mm.
But like I want to ask you something. Maybe it's just being super like genuine here and like vulnerable. But if you give, when you're signing up for an app, right? You are clearly aware that you're going to give your email address for the app,
Mm.
experience. So like how does that change the whole consent stuff? Because it's first party data. You basically, it's like a transaction. You knowingly go into this trip with, and you give your email because you want to access the contents of the app. So does that change the classic understanding of consent manager management that is on a website with you browse, for instance?
Well, I mean, if you give your email to an app, you need to know the purpose why that email is collected. So if the email is collected to create an account for you, then the legal basis under GDPR would be something like contract. So
Okay.
that's why you don't need to specifically give consent for that, because you enter into a contract, you give them your email, you get a service in return. What that service can't do is take that email and use it for marketing,
Yeah.
because they don't have a legal basis for that. They only have a legal basis for what you have actually,
Consent.
willingly and knowingly entered
Yeah.
into. So then, if they wanted to use that email for marketing, they would need to come up with a legal basis for that. They could potentially, I guess, they could like add it to the contract that, hey, we can use your email for marketing, but they can't hide it there. It has to be informed
Visible.
and visible. Yeah. So there might be a checkbox like, can I use this email for marketing? Well, okay, that's fine then. Then they have a purpose for that, or a legal basis for that. But typically it would be consent. So they would still, this doesn't change any of that. So DMA just sits on top of GDPR. It sits or alongside it. It gives additional clarifications and requirements for these big companies to operate in. but GDPR itself has remained the same effectively, and the same requirement for processing personal data remain. So this idea of first party data, it's not, it doesn't emerge. So this is my view.
Mm,
It doesn't emerge as a privacy control. That it has nothing to do with that. It emerges as a way to replace those third party cookies. Like that's the number one reason for ad tech vendors to collect first party hashes. They need to be able to um, assign a request that comes from a random internet user. They need to be able to pinpoint them in their own user database, their own identity graphs, and say that, hey, this apparently was Simo who just saw an ad, and a week later in some other site, again, Simo clicked an ad, bought a product. So now we can correlate the two. So that's what that solves. But it's the first party stuff is so tricky. Like,
That's why I'm asking, because it's a bit
yeah,
tricky if you think about it. Like when I came from e-commerce, you will go on
yeah,
an e-commerce website and you say, "Give me your email, and I'll give you news and 10% off on your next order." So you just go and give your email,
yeah,
and then you get bombed, and it's
yeah, for
fine.
sure.
No, nobody, nobody.
Yeah,
There's not one person that sued an e-commerce company or an e-commerce company that was fined for doing this. Is
mm,
the classic zero party first party data where you give like all the signals and intent, and then you give an email. And if you sign up for one of those things on an e-commerce website that, let's say you want to buy dresses 3 times per week and your favorite color is red, that all that profiling, you
mm,
knowingly go into that because you want 10%. So that's the exchange of the value for you is that 10% off or 20% off. So it's tricky because
yeah,
like we are all used to that. So now they're tell us, hey, we give you this 10%, but we're also gonna blow you up with 200 emails per day.
yeah.
It's so
Yeah, I
hard.
think
And
that. Yeah, I
sorry,
think the
yeah.
mistake. Yeah, no, you're completely right. I think the mistake in thinking, traditional thinking, is this idea that data is a commodity and you can barter with it. Like you can trade it and you can give it up in exchange for something. And like this is Aurelie's bread and butter, and she'll probably give us some feedback on this episode once this airs out if she listens to this. But like in the European Union, uh, your personal data is your sacred right. Like it's your
Yeah.
fundamental right. You have protection of that. You can't give it up. Just the same way that you don't give up like your freedom. You don't say like, hey, okay, you can just take me up as a interred servant, and in exchange, I'll have some food every now and then on the table. Like that, it just
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. You can't give up your freedom because it's a fundamental right. So this idea that you could somehow trade with your personal data, of course, the waters have been muddied now with Meta's pay or okay attempts, where they're trying to do what newspapers have been doing for a long time, which is like, get you to subscribe so that they can use your data. And you know, again, we come to the fact that of course, like businesses need to run, but at the same time, personal data needs to be protected. And so all of these mechanisms, DMA, e-privacy, GDPR, they're just formalizing this very, very simple notion of users having agency over their personal data. But until individual data controllers, like individual websites, individual apps, individual, mom and dad shops, until they respect that, like nothing's going to happen. No technology will fix that. No technology will change your mindset. If you've decided that personal data is up for grabs and it gives you a shitload of money when you use it for affiliate marketing or whatever, or display marketing,
Yep.
then the game is already lost. So this is more like all these tools and technologies are trying to rein in the big tech, the big baddies, when it's really just the entire mindset of our consumer culture and our business culture to shape up and try to figure out a completely new paradigm of doing advertising that doesn't rely on individual data, like those individual rows of data. But we're
But
not going to
see
solve
this,
that.
yeah. You see, this is the problem. Education. There is not
Yeah,
enough education about what's going on right
I
now,
can
and
see a
it's
segue coming.
yes, yeah, no, so in this episode, we have a guest and we're gonna talk about education, but this was not planned for sure. I mean, it was sort of planned, but truly the biggest problem is education. If it wasn't
Yeah,
for people like Aurelie or others that actually spend time of their day reading through all that legalist stuff that I cannot even, you know, like Aurelie is scary. She knows everything. Like I asked her when I met her at Super Week, I was like, "How do you remember all this shit? I don't even remember what I ate today."
Mhm.
So she's a machine. Like there's a lot of people in the community that do the hard work to go through all this stuff and try to explain it to us layman in layman terms. But there has to be education done, and like I fear that most companies and agencies do a bit of fear mongering to scare people into contracts and to scare them into making abrupt decisions based on their ignorance. And I don't think that's the right approach. But to segue on education, I'm so excited because you finally released the technical marketing handbook.
Yes.
And I've been like so excited. I need to take that test because I've been traveling, but I was so excited to see you and Mari. So tell me everything. So
Oh well, we have only 4 minutes, so I can't tell you absolutely everything. But
tell me everything in 4 minutes about it, please.
so yeah, so the technical marketing handbook is it's 4 or 5 months in the making, and it's consumed our professional lives quite completely, Mari and mine. Um, it's really just kind of a celebration of all things technical marketing, and it goes through. It has 9 chapters, 3 topics each, 76,000 something words. Um,
Whoa.
so we just focused on. So we had two focuses. One, it had to be free,
Yeah.
like no strings attached, free, no subscriptions, no subscribe to the newsletter to get this stuff or something like that. And the other was that it had to be really really nice and easy to use and easy on the eyes. So we spent a lot of time iterating the design and just making it as smooth as possible, and the content kind of flowed in itself. I wrote a lot of text, like a lot of text, and tapped into every single last resource in my brain about all these different things. And I had to, or I wanted to. It was just about had to. I wanted to get in some external reviewers. So we have a bunch of people who have been on this. Ton Wesling, for example, he was one
Yeah,
of
yeah,
our
yeah.
reviewers. Shafan was one of our reviewers. So going over specific subject matter content with them, and they, Ton gave me like 10 pages of feedback. He was so generous, and I was so. But obviously, because CRO was never my like, I understand the principles, but getting into the weeds of statistical maths is just
Oh
not
no,
my
yeah.
bread and butter. So he certainly did a good job at fixing that. But yeah, so it's now out. It's handbook.teenstreamer.com. Like I said, it's a completely free resource. The idea, like the philosophy of the handbook, is that if you're working in digital marketing, by reading that handbook, you'll be able to jump into a conversation with an SEO expert or a digital ads expert or a web developer, and you'll be able to understand what they say. So we're not. Our job wasn't to give you like every single thing you need to learn about, data layer or something,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but to give you the terminology and the concept, so you can build that like T shape, the horizontal bar of the T shape, and fatten it as much as you can without compromising your vertical bar, the one thing that you're really proficient in. And based on the feedback, I think we did a good job. Like
It's so pretty. I need to go through it
yeah,
myself. It's just I didn't have time, but it's so pretty, and I
I'm
just
really, really
love.
happy with the design. It
And
turned
it's
out better than I
fast,
expected.
and it's very
Yeah,
fast, and like and when I say fast, people, I mean it's responsive. It's a responsive design,
yeah,
which is great because it's so much information. And you have also a test where you can test your knowledge
yeah,
before you even take it, which I thought it was really cool. It's like your GTM skills test, and I
yeah.
love
It's not
that.
that bad.
i
It's not
i
that difficult though.
I never took the GTM skills test
Yeah.
because I know I will fail it.
Well,
Yes.
not a single person has gotten full marks. Even I can't get any full marks anymore because I've forgotten like some of
That's
those
crazy.
trick questions. I think the best is some like 92 out of 99 or something.
Oh my god. But
But
yeah.
anyway, yeah. So the handbook is out there, and it's. I hope that people take a look at. I hope people share it with their teams. Like I said, we're not collecting emails. We're not collecting anything. I really really just hope that everyone reads it, because I believe, or we believe, that it's for the betterment of our community. Like it can potentially be a career changer for people who want to try something else. So I'm really really. I don't know. I just hope it. I just hope people read it. I don't like Mari's going to kill me when I say this. I don't personally care if it like pays itself off. Like obviously we're seeing people interested in our brand more and more through the handbook, but I don't like. I do not care about that stuff. We're a successful company, and we've gotten to a point where we can actually give back to the community. So this was like a really really fun project to build and give to the community.
That's awesome, and make sure, guys, you go to the episode notes or the description if you're watching this on YouTube, and go and get it, and then share it on LinkedIn, because I know both you and Mari are excited to see people that
Mm.
pass the certification. I will do it too. I'm excited actually to go through it, and it's just good for the community. That's the last thing I want to say before we invite
Yeah.
our guest, is that when you did a technical marketing mini degree, that changed a lot of people's lives, including mine. So this is again another type of those catalysts that can give you like the type of energy and motivation to do maybe a career change or just join the conversation. So like, super fangirl Juliana right now. I know we
Thank you.
got used to each other because we're doing this for some time, but like
Yeah.
that's how I
Thanks.
feel. Cool. So talking about education, we have the most amazing guest today, and yes, I say this with full responsibility. We have Krista Seiden coming, and she's waiting for us in the lobby. So let's just get Krista in.
Yes, I found the correct button. Hey, it's Krista Seiden, everybody.
Yay!
Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! Hi,
Woo.
Krista. Sorry, I will never
We're
do that sound again.
excited. Only for you he
Hey,
would
I'm
do stuff
excited
like
too.
this.
Yes. So, how are you? What's going on? What's the latest?
I'm good. Life has been super busy since I know we've seen each other last. It's been a while.
Mm.
Yeah, I've got a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old. They are crazy and fun and cute and take up tons of time. But they're a joy. And other than that, I mean, business is good. Yeah, I think there's so much going on in the analytics space. I know you guys are probably just talking about consent and other things that are
Mm.
happening. I know that's taken up a lot of people's brain space. But yeah, GA4 is really what is kind of in my brain space these
Yeah.
days and all days. Yeah.
So so for some of those in the audience who might not know, you were a long time Googler. You were working with the academy team there, or the analytics outreach team, as well as in product teams. And then you kind of went and started doing your own thing with your consultancy, and you built some amazing GA4 courses with your KS Digital Academy. And now, if I understood correctly, you're kind of working back again with Google on their education stuff, and you just released the Analytics Academy stuff for GA4. So could you kind of give an overview about these milestones? Like what were you thinking? Basically,
What was
when
I
all of this
thinking?
stuff
I don't know,
happened, yeah, what
man.
were you thinking?
Uh,
Are you
so
still
many thoughts
thinking?
going through my head, or am I thinking at all? I don't know.
Mm,
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. So I was at Google for almost 7 years, with the last 5 years of that time on the GA team
yeah.
as the analytics evangelist, doing a lot of speaking, teaching, training. I wrote and filmed all of the Analytics Academy courses for Universal Analytics. And I was a product manager for GA for Firebase in the early days of GA4. So I'm sorry, and you're welcome. And then I left and ended up starting my own consultancy, doing analytics consulting. So audits, solution designs, implementation, kind of the whole 9 yards. And that was going well. And then I decided to have the crazy idea that I should start my own coursework,
Mm,
because who needs more work? So as Simo, I know that you can attest, it's a lot of work to build your own courses. But I dove in deep because there wasn't any GA4 courses really on the market. And so I released a couple of GA4 courses. So we have kind of a beginner reporting course, and then we have like a more advanced course that goes over settings and various things in GA4. And then I partnered with Rick Jonkers over at Data to Value to actually put out an implementation course as well, which has been a great resource for people trying to
nice.
get up to speed on actually implementing GA4. Um, all the while, I was actually still kind of working with Google, as you alluded to.
As a mole.
So as a mole.
It's terrible.
They actually brought me back about a year after I left, to work in a consultative manner for the GA team. So just basically to do a lot of the educational things that I was doing when I was there full time, to continue doing a lot of that. So I've a lot of the GA4, education docs you've seen, from the playbooks, various videos. I actually wrote a lot of those or filmed them. And as you mentioned, the most recent Analytics Academy courses for GA4, I helped write and film a lot of those as well. Um, there might be some more coming. I'm not going to give anything away, but I was back in the studio last week. It was a lot of fun. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's been a whirlwind, but it's kind of it's an interesting place, right? I kind of have one foot in and one foot out because I'm still
Yeah.
running my own business. I still have clients that I consult with. Right now, I'm working with my biggest client ever, a giant retailer in the U.S. Well,
Wow.
actually, I'll just tell you because we have the rights. So it's Nordstrom, which is
Wow.
pretty
Oh,
cool.
nice.
So we are completely implementing them with GA4 across Nordstrom.com, NordstromRack.com, and both their apps. And it's been great. A lot of fun, kind of doing a lot of that kind of hands-on work again, all while still maintaining my own coursework on the side, and continuing to build courses for Google. So there's a lot going on in that area, and yeah, it's
That's
it's
really really
it's
impressive. Like
How do
you
you do
seem to
it?
have it all together. Like you're not completely batshit crazy, but like completely. Yeah, I know
I
there are
don't know.
times. There
My
are times,
husband might
Krista.
disagree.
Yes, yes, we have a support ring with Martin every now and then, so we talk about this stuff. So
Yeah.
I did want to ask one specific thing, a business question. Like when you started working on GA for content for Google, did you ever feel like you're cannibalizing your own courses? Like you're creating free content around the same stuff that you have paid content for? Like what was the
Yeah.
mindset there? Did it steer
I mean,
you in a different direction in the way you build those things?
kinda, yes and no. So I think going into building my own coursework, I had previously already built all of the UA Academy courses, and I knew kind of the level of detail and the types of coursework that Google would want to put out if they were to do a GA4 course. Um, and so I kind of took the approach of going much deeper in my own coursework. So my coursework is very hands-on, very example heavy, really going through kind of all the nitty-gritty of the tool. And in addition to that, we have all of the add-ons like a Slack community and office
Mm,
hours and those kind of things that really kind of differentiate it from what I was doing at Google. Um, so then going into fast forwarding, I don't know, 2 years later, when Google finally decided that they were going to do their own Analytics Academy courses, I knew what my courses offered, and I had a good idea of what Google would want in their types. And so a lot of that, I wrote it in a way that um, it was. I hope anybody who's taken the new Analytics Academy courses can chime in and let me know if it's true or not. But I think it's a nice comprehensive overview. Um, but true to Google style, it's not super in depth on a lot of examples and details. So I think, yes, there's probably some cannibalization. At the same time, my coursework is generally priced a little bit towards the higher end because it is so
yeah.
hands on and in depth and offers kind of that personal touch. Whereas the Google courses are free, and so oftentimes it's not the same audience. Or I'm the first to tell you, go take the Google courses, and when you're ready to go deeper, come to my courses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so I,
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
good.
there's always like possibility that it's slightly cannibalizing what I'm doing on my own, but probably not the same target audience, and different content.
Yeah, and if anything, it might actually just introduce more people to that
To
world that they'll
you,
get
yeah.
interested in getting the deep dives later from you or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually funny when Google was looking to do these next rounds of Academy videos, they basically were like, we need somebody that the community trusts. You were the face of analytics for the last many years. Like, can you do this again? And it's really funny. And I know that's kind of getting into the community topic that
Yeah.
you always have on your mind. But, they recognized that they couldn't just put out a bunch of new coursework with somebody that nobody had seen before because it wouldn't be taken as seriously
Serious, yeah.
or be as, trustworthy of a source. Um, and I think, personally that helps me and my brand as well. So it's kind of a win-win. And yeah, I was all for it because I think the community really needed the content
Yeah.
coming from Google. Like it was a huge gap in the market. And as many of us kind of private course creators as there are, we're never going to fill that same kind of gap
Mm.
that Google fills with its very scaled coursework, right? And so we needed that, and I'm really happy that it's out there now.
That's really cool because I always associated you with a sense of community. I mean, I think you, Simo, and some people are like key people that started this whole analytics community. I'm sorry, I have to say it, but like when back in the days of GA, and me rubbing my back right now, uh, back in the days of universal analytics, it was you, it was Simo, it was other people that kind of started this sharing type of thing in the community. So I think my question is like, was this community sense of community, all the work have you done, putting all that content as an evangelist, as a promoter of, of a data driven mindset and so on, was that what made you go towards education? Because to be an educator, you want to give back, right? You like to get people to unlock different things in their heads. So kind of like, how was the journey to get into education?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I cannot claim to have started the GA community. There were many who came before me that
Mm,
had similar roles.
mm,
I'm myself, Simo, others have, approached it in maybe a different way and tried to be a little bit more giving of our time. I certainly cannot claim the level of giving of my time as Simo. I don't think anybody can,
he's a
but
robot.
Well,
yes,
you just listed
Simo
like
bot.
50 million different things that you do. Come on. I'm not the one who's an overachiever here.
I mean, I'm not talking about overachiever, just giving of your time for free to everybody. Yes, I love to be able to like provide to the community and put out like
Yeah.
Twitter threads and blog posts and all of these things. But I only have so many hours in the day, and I don't know how you do the level that you keep
I
up
have
with.
more hours. I figured out a way. I have a machine.
Exactly. Let me know your magic, please. Um, but I mean, to answer your question, I think when I moved into doing my own thing, client work is fun and it's challenging and it's great to kind of keep yourself sharp, really, right? Because
Mm,
things are always changing and you need to continue to actually do the thing so that you can teach about it. But I always knew when I went into my own thing that that probably wasn't going to be enough. In that I really liked the educational aspect of my role at
Yeah.
Google. And, I saw the market need, knew that I had a lot of kind of the background and know how to do it. And that's kind of where that came from in terms of doing my own coursework. But in general, I think like it was actually just getting into it in the first place with Analytics Academy at Google. There was a need, and there wasn't really anyone else on the team that was kind of ready to step up. The first course that I wrote for Analytics Academy was the GTM course, and I literally like forced my way through writing that course by implementing GTM and doing all the things and like bugging Scott Herman, who was sitting behind me at the time. And, I think occasionally pinging Simo and being like, is this correct?
Mm,
but yeah, I think it just kind of came organically from a need and grew from there.
yeah.
but how do you both keep up? Because shit changes so often. How do you keep up with the
Yes.
learning depth and education depth? Because it's kind of a mixture of technical depth. Because you film a video, you're excited, people take it, and tomorrow explorations are moved and conversions are named key events.
That's
How?
Uh,
How? How?
no
How?
comment. No comment. No
yeah.
comment on that. Um,
No, that's
yeah, I mean, Simo, you answer here.
well,
Like,
I haven't figured it out. Like what I would like to hear is how Google does it because they have the
Yeah.
scale and they have the resources. Like how
yeah,
do they
fair.
keep their material? Like what are their strategies for keeping the material fresh? I have some ideas, and we do like certain things at Simmer, but like
Tell
I could just
us.
give like my number one tip is to always try to create courses with evergreen content. Like don't do UI courses. Like don't do those. Like anything that can change. Like I love doing the JavaScript
Simo,
course
you've
because
seen
it's
my course. It's very
I know
UI heavy. Like
it was
literally
like
the whole thing is
it was not like an inclusive UI. Like you're excluded from this. Like you do you, but all the other aspiring course people out there, like doing a course in JavaScript was really nice because JavaScript is
Yeah.
unlikely to change fundamentally. Like I don't have to change stuff. But now I'm like I
that's fair.
have my I do have my server side tagging course and stuff like that, and I just had to do a complete rewrite of it because the underlying infrastructure changed. So
Totally.
this is a total headache.
Yeah, actually, I think that gets back to kind of the differentiation between my own courses and Google's, right? Is actually
Yeah,
Google's are written to be a little bit more evergreen in that manner. They do
yeah,
have screen shares of the UI for certain pieces of
Mm.
the videos, but they are very much meant to try to have a longer shelf life.
Yeah.
And we've done things like when there's a screen share, just record, like re-record the voiceover and the screen share for that piece and edit it back
Yeah.
into the video where like there's like the high production value. I'm on camera talking about like the concepts before going into the actual screen
Yeah.
share. So that's kind of the Google way of doing that. That being said, things very much go out of date or change in the product all the time.
Yeah.
And it kind of depends on how big a change is. If it's a massive UI
Yeah.
change, then eventually Google will re-record the content. That being said, I think in the original UA video, like UA Academy, we only did a few like
Yeah.
re-records, although UA changed less than GA4 has. For GA4, we've already, I mean, last week I was filming and I redid one of the lessons for one of the courses that's already out there.
Yeah.
So
Was it the
there
conversions
is
one?
no comment,
Okay.
Yeah. But
but that's a pretty good guess. Um,
Love it.
but for my own stuff, like Simo, I've had to completely redo my entire coursework. Re-record all the lessons. Like my personal courses are very UI heavy, but I think with GA in general, it has to be very
mm,
UI heavy because you are teaching how to use a product. And I think that's the
yeah, for
difference
sure.
between kind of concept teaching versus like teaching how to actually do something in a product. The
Yeah.
Google courses kind of try to do both. I do both, but I'm much more heavy on the actual end product. This is how you actually do this type of stuff,
Yeah.
which
And it
naturally means you have to redo content.
Yes.
and it really boils down to like many different like subscription models as well. Like if you do lifetime access, like when you buy the course, you get it for life. I feel like there's less of a pressure to keep it constantly updated versus if people paid a monthly fee or like a yearly fee,
It's
they
a
would
good point.
expect when their like bill comes in, they would expect that if I pay this now, I want like the freshest possible version of this course.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
one thing that I was thinking, for me, like the updating the content itself isn't the bad thing. Like I can record videos. That's what I do for a living, and it's fine to use time for that. But finding the videos that need to be updated, that's the difficult part. So actually labeling the videos that, and I've been thinking about this, like, could this be something where AI can really do a difference where it could automatically like classify videos and tag them like this video now has the template editor interface. This video has the
yeah,
server side, Google Cloud Platform interface. So I can just quickly do a search through all my videos, like give me all the videos that have this UI feature that now change so that I can quickly find the ones. So I'm wondering if that could,
yeah,
when at Super Week last week, I talked with Julius from Analytics Mania, and he said that one trick that he does is that he does transcriptions of all his videos for captions, which I do too. He just searches through those transcriptions when there's a UI change. Where do I talk about conversions and blah 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 events,
yeah.
whatever they're going to call it,
Smart.
and then they can just find those timestamps. Of course, that assumes that the transcriptions are done well, which like for the
Yeah.
20th time when I had to rewrite server side tagging as service side tagging, I got really disenchanted with the
Oh
whole
my
automatic.
god.
But yeah, those are just
I mean,
some
that sounds much
ideas.
more scalable than the way I went about it. I literally put everything in a spreadsheet and rewatched most of my videos
Oh
that
God.
I like
That's what I would have done to
was somewhat
Krista.
questionable. I mean, like I had, but also like you kind of have to rewatch it because I
For
mean,
the
this is stuff that I
context.
recorded quite a while
Yeah.
ago, right? And I need to remind myself what I was teaching in each
No.
lesson,
Yeah.
so that I can reteach the same concepts, but with an updated UI. So I think part of it was an audit to actually find where things needed to be updated, but also part of it was like, let's actually get back in the mindset of what this lesson was about and what I want to teach. And if that's changed, then I can also change it. But I want to make sure that the same kind of core concepts are included. But yeah, it's a lot of
Wow.
effort.
No, but that's cool. She put you to shame, Simo, because that
She
was
did. Like I definitely did not use a spreadsheet. Like I did not. I just tapped into my memories, which is pretty good still. Of course, degraded by a 7 year
Your
old and a
memory
three
must
year
be
old.
much better than mine.
Yeah. Well, it comes and goes. It comes and goes. Yeah. But it's a tough nut to crack, and I think that yeah, it's we've had discussions with Google engineers, like when this particular thing that you might or might not be alluding to first was potentially foreshadowed in the communities. Like there was a lot of discussion from a content creator point of view, like these things that are seemingly insignificant can force rewrites of like thousands upon thousands of hours and pages of content, because otherwise
Totally.
it would be difficult to interpret it. So I've always kind of wondered what kind of a product organization would it have to be to kind of, they already have this amazing resource of an immense community doing outreach for them and sharing information about their platform. So could there maybe be a little bit more give and take?
If
Um,
only.
yeah, but
I
I
mean,
understand. Yeah,
I don't think that that is the focus of
yeah,
at least the Google team right now. They are heads down focused on just getting features
of
out,
course.
feature parity, and various other things. Do I think that that is an oversight? Absolutely. I think there should be a lot more focus on community, but
Yeah. But
it
it's
is
not
what it
just
is.
Google. It's not just Google. It's
No,
any vendor that
Any
has a
vendor.
community doing education for them. It just,
totally.
I feel like it just slips under the radar that they don't
Mm.
maybe it becomes like a, they take the community for granted in a way. Like regardless of what we'll do, they'll grumble for a while and they'll just keep churning out content.
I will say that I think that the just to close out kind of the keeping things up to date, it is 100% okay to put a note in the like in the description field or even over the video to say like, hey, this UI has changed, it's slightly updated, but the concepts remain the same. We did that with the GTM course after like 5 years. Um, and then, further down the line, go back and actually
Yeah.
update it. So I think that that is totally okay and can buy you some time.
No, that's a really good point, and especially for the smaller changes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
then it's maybe just like well, the people who do this for a living or professionally would probably ask their students or do some market research, like what is an appropriate time to actually redo everything. I never did that, so that's why I don't know. But there comes a point
When
when the
there's been
changes,
enough changes.
yeah, exactly. But there comes a point when the changes are just too many and too big that you can't get by with those little notes anymore, and then you just have to, and it's so frustrating to go back and redo a course that you've probably like tapped out like 75% of the existing revenue for already. So
Mm.
it's really, really frustrating. So try
Mhm.
to figure out a way to kind of revitalize it and maybe sell it as something new as well. Might be useful, which is what we're thinking for the BigQuery course, by the way. We're trying to figure out new like strategies for the refresh.
Oh yeah.
How
Yeah.
do
Are
you,
you
I mean,
gonna have Johan again?
Yeah, for sure. I can't do it
Yay.
without him. Yeah.
I love him so much. He's so
Yeah,
nice.
he's so tranquil. Like every time I start listening to
Yes.
him, like I start dozing off, but not in a bad way. Like it's just like hypnotic.
Yeah, I love him. He's
note to
When
great.
self, listen to
I'm
the
like I'm
BigQuery
like a
course before bed.
yeah, it is. It's not always the best combination when you're trying to teach a technical topic. But I jump in every now and then, like bah, to make sure that the audience is still alert. Sorry, Krista, I interrupted you.
Well, I mean, you were like talking about a really good point where you're just like, when you've already tapped out 75% of the market, then,
Mm,
how do you keep going? So,
Mm.
how do you find more market? Like, I feel like oftentimes there's just no more amount of marketing that I can do. And granted, I don't do a ton of marketing for my courses, but it seems like diminishing returns,
yeah.
right? So, how do you tackle that?
Again, if I knew anything about the business world, I would be able to answer you this. But it seems to be working. Whatever we're doing, um, I think we're also underestimating, like GA4, for example. Like the market is immense, and I think that people are, and I think that GA4 is one of those products where people are comfortable with buying multiple courses from different vendors because it's
Mm-hmm.
still like kind of a patchwork, and so many, especially with the new APIs being introduced, and it become more of a like a developer tool as well, and then the mobile side, it's just getting to a point where I don't think anybody can get everything they need from one course provider. And even if they have overlapping content, it doesn't matter. I think the same applies to SQL as well. If you want to learn the programming language, I don't mind getting the same JavaScript course or the similar course from different course providers because it's all just going to enrich my understanding. So I think the market is really really huge. It's it probably boils down to like business strategy of repackaging the course. I think that's when, if you do an
Yeah.
update, at least this is my philosophy. If I do an update, it's just not going to be just V2. It has to have something unique that wasn't there before, so that I can invite new people to look at it that might have been kind of turned off by the previous version for some reason.
Yeah,
So
that's a
I
great point.
yes,
But
I
I
wouldn't.
think here is
Yeah.
that back in like a few years ago, there weren't too many people as focused to build a personal brand and do content and blog. Like there were just very few people a few years ago that were doing content on their own. So now it's a huge wave of folks. I don't even know where they come
Mm.
up from. I sound like people that talk about me. Where did she came from? But it's people that just come up and do content, and some of it is really good. So what I think you did good, Simo, is that for instance your JavaScript course, you mentioned who is it for because you said JavaScript for marketers. So for instance, if it was a
Mm.
GA4 course, I've never seen a GA4 for marketers course because GA4 is not as much as a marketing analytics tool as it used to be. It's more of a I don't see it like that. I see it more of a product tool. I could be wrong, but I don't see it as a marketing tool, personally.
I think you'd
I'm
have a
happy.
lot of people who feel very differently about that.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, for sure. Everyone sees it in a way, but I like it's kind of like you find your audience by tailoring the content for a specific, like person for a job role, because you would use it differently a tool if you're in marketing, if you're in product, if you're in CRO or whatever. So like this is something untapped. Like how do you use GA4 with Firebase A/B testing for CRO? Like that would be a course. I would love to see that. I wouldn't do it, but
Bree
somebody
Anderson just released a GA4 for SEO course.
that would be so cool.
Oh yeah, she did.
And
Yeah,
I know
true.
like
Oh, it
yeah,
is
and I
one.
know that
Yeah.
SEOs are like they are haters of GA4 and yet users. Also, some for some reason, I don't know, Simo, if you see this too, but like I feel like most of my conference invites these days are more SEO type conferences, or there's just not a lot of just more general digital marketing conferences. I don't know, but
I think
those
they.
seem like more of the events.
I think there's a lot of desire in the SEO community to make sense out of Google Analytics for whatever reason. It could be like
Mhm.
a sunk cost fallacy where they're so invested in the Google stack that they feel like they need to continue with GA4, and that's
Mm,
why they have this love hate relationship with it. But I think there's also like it's just mass hysteria as well. Like things are being blown out of proportion. Um, but we don't have to
mhm.
go into that now. One thing I did want to ask, circling back to this, doing courses for Google and doing courses by yourself, what have you taken like from the Google way of doing courses? Because they obviously have a pretty impressive machine for that, and they have all the studios and green screens and all the props and all the makeup artists and whatever you have, the same as we have here. So have you taken something out of those experiences and added them to your own coursework? Like, has there been something that's been really useful for that? And if it has, please tell me what it is.
I mean, yes and no. It's kind of funny because it's evolved over time in terms of the Google kind of way of doing courses. When we did the UA courses, it was all done in house. We had our own GA video team. It was awesome. We were able to like. That's how I was able to record probably 100 plus of those little quick tip videos on various features of Universal Analytics. I would just be like, hey guys, like I'd like to do some studio time on Wednesday, and we would knock out like 10 videos. um, Now, post COVID and everything else, Google's actually gotten rid of most of their in-house video teams, and so they have, some like kind of central teams that they work with that then like contract out and bring in like video talent. And so the last couple courses I've done, I've actually been in random studios around SF and Oakland, recording. Actually, like last week, I was recording at George Lucas's old stop motion studio, and there was like little figurines from stop motion and some Star Wars stuff there. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
But it's evolved. And interestingly, when we did it in house, there was no hair and makeup. But now this new way of doing it, there's a hair and makeup artist, which is like new to me, and I have like somebody like touching me up between every like take. It's so funny. Um, I would say none of that has applied to my own videos.
Okay.
I've taken the kind of the route on mine to do mostly off camera
Mm,
work, because I think what I took away from the Google stuff is that it is much harder to edit on camera stuff and make it like mesh up and look like
Yeah.
it's one continuous seamless take. Whereas if you're off camera, it is much, much
Yeah,
easier to
for
edit. And I
sure.
personally do all my own editing for my courses. So I film them, I edit them, I do everything.
Nice.
And so, for me, I do a lot of off camera, mostly screen share, but I think kind of the educational process of it is similar, where I try to take students from like an overview and then down into like individual concepts. But I don't know that there's actually like too much that I've taken other than the kind of just general way of trying to educate, but at a deeper level.
Was there anything like the opposite, like that you decided, I'm never going to do that in my course? Like, this is a bad idea. I don't want to do this.
Being too high level. I
Okay.
think a lot of the Google courses stick very high level. And I knew that for mine, I wanted to go much deeper.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of kind of leaving people hanging. Like we did for UA, we did a 360 course, and I still remember it bothered me then. It bothers me now, where there's a lesson on BigQuery, and it was like the most high level overview
Mm,
thing. Didn't even really like teach you how to link BigQuery, let alone do anything in
No.
BigQuery. It was super, super conceptual, and I'm like, what is the point of
yeah.
this? And I don't think that course in particular, like it was a 360 course, I don't think it was one of the more popular courses, but that's the kind of stuff that I avoid, because I want to make sure the courses are actually useful.
Yeah.
I do think that the new GA4 Analytics Academy courses are useful.
Having said all
I will
that,
say that. Having said all of that.
They are cool because people used to ask me for free GA4 courses, and I would never recommend the academy courses until I saw you on Twitter. I was like, please take it. It's good. I promise you. This is it. This is the best free course you need to take, and then go
Mm,
and buy the in-depth ones. No, I like them.
yeah.
They're fun, and it's just you're very good at it. Like you're really good at it. You're a good, like
Thank you.
teacher and
It's
speaker
almost
also.
like you
That's
do
why
this for a living.
yeah,
Almost.
that's why people are getting you to conferences because you're a great speaker. You're one of the few people that I paid to go and see speaking when you came to Romania. Like I really wanted
Yeah.
to see you speak, so and you were with
Hopefully I
Avinash at
did
that
not
time.
disappoint.
No, because the thing is that I told you this a couple of times. I never smiled when I was speaking. I was like this, but I was always seeing you smiling. I was like, shit, maybe I need to try that too, and it worked. Like I learned something. Like
That's a thing I've taken from Google, actually. That one we can go back on. So for
that's crazy.
Analytics Academy courses, I was always instructed that even when you're off camera, you need to smile like crazy as you're recording because you sound happier. And when you sound happier, like it just comes across as like a fresher, more interesting video. That is definitely something that I took from Google, and I do. And after filming last week, my cheeks were so sore for like a day
Yeah.
because I was smiling so much all day.
It's a good
But
trick.
yeah.
So when are you coming to Europe again? When can people from Europe can come and see you speak?
I think so. We are going to be in the Netherlands pretty much all of June.
Oh,
So we're
nice.
looking forward to that. We come back for 4 to 6 weeks every year. I'm going to speak at SEO on the Beach mid-June
Oh,
in Spain. So that'll be a nice
oh,
little getaway. We're gonna use it as a little weekend trip for me and my husband to get away from the kids, leave the kids at the in-laws in the Netherlands, and go party on the beach and speak.
that sounds
I'm
so
looking forward
cool.
to it because like the pictures I've seen of this event, it's super
Yeah.
super casual. Like people are in like shorts and flip flops, and I've never been at a conference in shorts and flip flops. So we'll see. But other than that, honestly, the speaking schedule is kind of light. I feel like that's one thing that I haven't seen come back after COVID as much,
Yeah.
or maybe I'm just like so far removed from people's like top of
Mm.
mind that I just am not getting the invites as much. But I'm speaking at WebOc Quebec
Oh, nice.
in Quebec City in May,
Oh, that's
and it seems
such a
like you've
nice
done that one before,
conference.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did that with, there was Tim Wilson as well, and Leia Pika at the same
nice.
time. It
That's
was a
so
really, really fun
cool.
event in a beautiful
Yeah,
city.
JF, the organizer, has literally asked me every year for like the last 6 or 7 years to go, and I can never make
Yeah,
it work. And it's also just a full day of travel to get there from San Francisco, but we're gonna do it this year. I'm excited.
nice.
So that and SEO on the beach are actually, I think, the only two things that are on the list right now. I think we'll try to hit up a measure camp while we're in town if there's or while we're in Europe. I think there's a couple.
Copenhagen is gonna be in June. Copenhagen.
All right, maybe I'll see you
So
there.
yeah, yeah. So we can take the selfie because we have that selfie, which is not even a selfie. It's a picture that somebody took of us talking, which I've been
Yeah,
sitting
I
on for
remember.
2 years. For 2 years to to post that picture. So now I have a reason to say that
Yeah.
we
So if
we
there's
did the
events in
podcast.
June in Europe, let me know. I'll come. I'll come.
10 out of 10 recommend. Like you're great, you're a great speaker, you're such a good speaker. Like I learned,
Oh,
that's
thank
why
you.
when I saw you I was like, yes. But where can people, so I know we need to wrap up, so where can people find you, connect with you, take your in-depth courses, and and just see what you are up to?
Awesome. Well, I'm at Krista Seiden on Twitter or X. I don't know. People still call it Twitter, I
It's
think.
Twitter.
Uh,
Everyone calls it Twitter.
LinkedIn is just Krista Seiden. My courses and consulting work are available over at ksdigital.co. And my blog, which I have not updated in quite some time, is over at kristaseiden.com.
Hey,
And of course,
There's
everyone
only
take a
so
look at
many
the
hours in
new.
the day. I don't have hours for the blog
it's
anymore.
hard.
Sure, I'll tell you how to increase them. I'll let you know. There's a way.
I need your
There's a
tips.
way.
Please tell
i,
me.
Yeah,
I want to know
it's a
that way
machine.
too because it takes
It's a machine.
hours.
Yeah, it's
I
a
need to
secret
know the
machine.
way
It's a
too.
sacred art for not only to bald Finnish people, but I'll let you know.
Okay, I want to know that too because I'm struggling to write an article for 3 weeks. But cool.
So
Well,
anyway, back to
you
reality.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody, of course, check out Krista's and Google's new courses on
Yeah,
GA4 at the Analytics Academy. And we'll add all this stuff into the show notes so you don't have to start, or we don't have to start dictating URLs to you. That would be fun. I
we
still think that
should.
would be a great way to stop the show.
Good use of AI.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming, Krista.
Thanks for having me. This is really fun.
Thank you.